Happy birthday, Mario! Wow, I can't believe it's already been 35 years since you were birthed into this here game cartridge. Man, tell me, how does it feel to be the world's biggest gaming icon?
Kill me.
That's great. Now tell me, how will you celebrate your 35th birthday? Dude! What the hell? You didn't have to hit me with mediocrity?
They finally did it. Nintendo somehow gave fans what they wanted for years while still f***ing it up completely. That's not to say I don't like 3D All-Stars, it's more that there's just some glaring issues with it. In fact, to be frank, I love this. I love the idea of it. I love having the 3 biggest Mario titles in history on one horribly labeled cart. You know, it's just amazing. On top of that, you can take it on the go due to the nature of the Switch, so really this collection of games causes no harm whatsoever. It's more the fact that this game, for the first time in a while, makes me feel like Nintendo got a bit lazy.
I know that's not an unpopular opinion, but for me, this game being lazy and feeling kind of lackluster is very different from other people's reasons.
Like the fact that these are just ports of the game. I have zero problems with that. Hi, Future Tom here. It turns out that this game actually emulates each game, except for Galaxy. It's a weird hybrid as it does use some of the source material. Anyway, what I'm saying here really doesn't speak how I actually feel about it now. I do have a little bit of a problem being emulation. It's kind of disappointing, and the one redeeming thing that I could have ever said that could have contradicted other people is now just the same. So, yeah, take that as you will, but I'm gonna let the video play out now. Just know that I'm using misguided information here. Okay, play the video now. I have zero problems with that fact, only because it's understandable as to why. These games require different engines, different playstyles, and different assets. It's not like the Insane trilogy, where every game can run on the same engine. These games have their own quirks that just prevent that. For me, the laziness comes more from the presentation. This trailer, this box art, this label, this title screen, this logo, it all feels so rushed. It doesn't have that Nintendo polish I see within everything they do.
In other words, this looks ugly. I hate the gold outline and the zero representation of the actual game's styles. These are just the box art with no pizzazz or interesting artwork.
I mean, you can argue that the original All-Stars did the same thing, but it actually didn't. The box art is it's so creative, hand-drawn, with each respective title having representation within the style that was used during that time. Mario is also over here in a top hat and suit, showing that it's a special occasion. It draws the player in, even if you weren't a Mario fan. Compare it to this, and you can see why I say it's just a tiny bit lazy. I think it would have been cool to show more of an evolution within the box art, from low poly to high poly, as one whole render. I mean, that alone would just represent what this game's supposed to be way better than this shit.
But that's what's on the outside. For most games, it's what's on the inside, you know, that's what counts, right, Mario? You know, ever since you put on that cat suit, you've been acting weird.
Let me first ask the question, are these games still the same as they were at their core? Yes, these games are practically the same games as their original counterpart. Of course, not everything is the same, but I'm gonna go into that on a game-by-game basis, starting with Galaxy. This is honestly the most faithful game out of the bunch. It feels the same as it did on the Wii, and the improvements are just so welcomed. The HD text and graphics are so nice to look at. The game still looks beautiful, despite the times you see Mario's low-poly ear. Ugh. I like the fact that the spin is mapped to a button, so you're provided with options. It's like a Pro Controller. This feels so surreal. Inherently, there's nothing wrong with it, but you still have to move the controller around for the pointer, and it's just weird. Better than playing it handheld, though. Imagine having to take one hand off the controller to use a very important function in the game to get past requirements. If you imagine correctly, you imagine Mario Galaxy in handheld mode. I can understand why this decision was made, but they couldn't have thought of anything else, like anything else. Like, the camera control in Galaxy is almost non-existent, so wouldn't it make more sense for the camera control to be on a D-pad and the pointer to be on the right stick? Yeah, it probably would have been awkward, but would it have been more awkward than this? I don't think so.
But Galaxy still plays well despite that fact, so knowing that, every game should be just fine on this collection. And if you know me, you know I'm about to contradict that statement. What the f did they do to Sunshine? No!
I love this game so much. It's one of my favorite GameCube titles, and it's the first console game I ever played. So I do hold it in hard regards, even knowing that it's the most broken Mario game I've ever played. But where do I even start with Sunshine? Let's start with the good things. So the game's in widescreen now.
Okay, now time for the bad. The f is this control tutorial?
Use the button to shoot water from my tail.
Would it really be so hard to get the original voice actor to say ZR or R instead of this hard cut to just flood saying button? It hurts me every time I hear it.
Use the button to shoot water.
Speaking of control, what the f happened here? It feels wrong. That's it, just wrong. The movement feels bad, like it's not calibrated correctly. And yeah, this was also a problem with Galaxy where Mario would just walk in a bunch of circles as it was holding forward. But I feel like that's more because of the planet situation, you know how gravity is in that game. Sunshine just feels so much worse. I cannot get the amount of precision that I once did on the GameCube. It might be the controller, there might be some lag input, I have no clue. It's hard to put my finger on what's the real issue here. Also, the normal nozzle is just, it's fucked. I know you couldn't do analog, but why would you make it this configuration? Look at this GameCube controller. Now look at the Switch Pro controller. Why the hell would you switch the button placement like this? Like, you could have had L be the button you press while shooting to, you know, make the water spraying still and more like a tank. Instead, you have this weird layout having two buttons to be right on top of each other, making it feel awkward to switch from stationary to walking while spraying water. The aiming also feels so off, like I can't get into the right spot for some reason. The game also looks horrible with the heat effects. In the cutscenes, it looks like how it should be, but when you're playing the game, the distortion looks less like heat and more like a game start code that f***s with your draw distance.
And this is a little upsetting because Nintendo almost never calls back to Sunshine, like ever. It's like the black sheep of the 3D Marios. People have mixed feelings on it. And in the off chance that Nintendo does reference it, they usually do it on accident or they just put it in Galaxy 2.
I kinda get it, but I also don't. It makes the collection feel incomplete, like there should be more but there isn't, and what could have been every 3D Mario game on the same system just became the first three and the one forgotten.
But maybe it was for the best. Galaxy 2 is a great game and a great sequel. I would hate to see them neuter it like they did with Sunshine, or give us a version that is very unpopular. Super Mario 64.
Super Mario 64 is the best controlling game out of the three. While I wish they could have updated the camera and left the visuals alone, it's still fun to play. But the version we got in this collection was the Shindo version. You know, the version that never came out in America? I understand having this version in the Japan release of the collection because the Shindo version was released in Japan and some people might remember that more than the original version. But for overseas, people only know the original game. And the reason why the game is so loved is because of the speedrunning exploits, and you release it in 2020 without those things like it truly matter when it f***ing doesn't. You're just messing with people's nostalgia at that point, and if you were going to keep these changes, why not go beyond and make the game more modern? The camera control, like I stated earlier, more stars, some of the content from the DS release, rideable Yoshi, Luigi, he was found in the source code. What stopped you from adding him in and putting in multiplayer like you originally wanted, Nintendo? Why? Why do you do this?
Sometimes I have to question why I love this company. And other times I just don't love them at all.
Super Mario 64 is the first 3D Mario game, and it revolutionized the 3D platformer genre, and it just made it fun. It makes sense for it to be brought back into the light for the 35th anniversary, but I think it was done wrong. Sure, a 3D collection was a great idea, and I love having these games on the Switch, but what if we only got Mario 64? But instead of a port, it was a from the ground up remake for the Switch. Having some abilities from Odyssey, cut content, and combining the best features of both the N64 version and the DS version without neutering it. Wouldn't have that been better? The Mario anniversaries have always been a bit weird in terms of content, but each have celebrated the series in different ways. Sure, the 25th anniversary had a lazy port of All-Stars, but it also came with novelty items that made the purchase more worthwhile. The 30th anniversary had Mario Maker, and for the first time you could officially create your own Mario levels and share them with others. It also came with novelty items and so many bonuses, it was great. And while we see a bunch of these things coming out for the 35th anniversary, it feels so empty.
I think it's because Nintendo only celebrates the NES version of Super Mario Bros. Yeah, it was the first game. Yeah, it kicked off the entirety of the Mario franchise, but there is still more to celebrate within the Mario series.
These anniversaries don't celebrate Mario's legacy, they celebrate his first mainline game. While you can argue that's completely different this year with 3D All-Stars, let me ask you this. How often do you see the original Mario Brothers, whether that's in re-releases or merchandise or even little knickknacks? Nintendo always finds a way to cram this 35-year-old game into anything Mario now. And when they focus on something else, they don't put in the effort to truly celebrate it. The entirety of the 35th Anniversary Direct made each announcement feel so special, but when 3D All-Stars was on the screen, the trailer felt so bland, so nothing, just another game and nothing more. Compare it to other games that got the anniversary treatment. Heck, even games that weren't celebrating the anniversary. They treated them like whole events. But here, they just spin a PNG of a logo and call it a day.
Again, I love this collection. I love having these games on the Switch and having them be able to go on the go, but I still can't help but feel that it could have been treated way better than what it was. I feel like this year Nintendo hasn't really been caring about what they put out. They're releasing a lot of stuff throughout the year for Mario's 35th anniversary, but it either feels like a gimmick or it just has limited availability. So like at that point, what's really the point of releasing stuff like that? I haven't really been a big fan of saying Nintendo's been disappointing, but lately it's hard to see it otherwise.
Maybe you shouldn't be so critical.
Wait. You're saying I can be a Nintendo fan and not criticize them on every tiny thing they do?
Yes, you can.